got to express yourself, man. You got to express yourself. It's way easier than you think. Trust me. Dude, I was an introvert. I've been an introvert for most of my life. And now coming up on, well, broken through 200 days semen retention. Thank you very much. I'll get a nice little round of applause for that. I've never done that in my life. I've never gone 200 days without releasing in my whole life. But what I'm finding is I'm starting to become extroverted. I'm starting to become chatty. You know, that guy who just has something to say in any situation. That guy who can crack a joke in any situation. I'm starting to find myself being that guy. And I've never really been that guy. Maybe since I was a little kid. I was very extroverted as a little kid. But somewhere along the line, I started to retreat, go into my shell. And I actually think this is the greatest challenge for these younger generations, like 20s, early 30s right now, of men. Our greatest challenge is that we're too introverted. And we hide behind this label of, like, what do they call it? Sigma male. We're all getting around trying to be Sigma males. I bought into it. I thought I was a Sigma male. You know, lone wolf, always by himself, doesn't have much to say, doesn't speak unless there's something worth saying, like wrapped up in that identity, being a little hermit crab. But now, dude, I'm becoming more fearless. I'm becoming the guy who just says what needs to be said. You know, bit of a Han Solo, bit of that brash, sort of brazen Han Solo vibe. You know, you just say what needs to be said. If there's an elephant in the room, you just call it out. You just break that ice. This is what I love about semen retention. The other thing I love is that it's helping me to release judgments, right? This is one amazing thing, an amazing benefit that you get when you start building up your energy, when you start becoming full of life force, thumos, as Elisha would say. You start to speak your mind. You start to express yourself. And what I find is, as you express yourself, you give people permission to express themselves. And when you hear someone express themselves who you haven't heard talk before, or who you haven't really seen open up before, you start to see this treasure trove of personality and life experience that you might have just judged as not being there. You might have just judged that person as being vacant, you know, retarded, like properly retarded, just not there. You might have held judgments about that person that they were dull, they were boring. But as you start to shine more of your light, other people start opening up too, and you start to see this spontaneous, humorous side of other people. You bring that gift into whatever environment you enter into, and it's a beautiful thing. You know, we got a guy in the group, Aiden. He's a legend. Love this brother. He jumped on a call the other week. I hadn't seen him on a call before. And the kind of vibe that he was in at that point, it seemed very sort of like I'm talking about, like closed off to himself, not very expressed, like holding all the cards tight to his chest. This was how I used to be for such a long time. And we challenged him. This is what we do in the group. We challenge each other. We rub each other the wrong way on purpose. We call each other out. We poke each other's vulnerable spots in a respectful and loving way. And I was like, all right, Sherman, I want you to do a channeling. I want you to look into Aiden's eyes and tell me what you see. And he said, I see a guy who has a lot has a lot to tell, has a lot of stories, has a lot of life experience, but he's not sharing it. He's not opening up. And maybe there's some fear of judgment there. Maybe there's some, there's some stuff there. And we went deeper and deeper, and then Aiden started opening up, sharing more of himself in that call. And we ended up doing this thing where we got everyone to make a weird noise. That's another thing we do on our weekly calls. We get everyone to make a weird noise sometimes. And Aiden made his noise. It was like, or something like that. I don't know exactly. I can't remember. Everyone had some freaking weird noises, man. But anyways, I feel like that shell started to break for him. Now, fast forward a few weeks, he started making daily YouTube videos, right? Every day, he's just been punching out YouTube videos. And I was watching one of his recent videos, literally the one he uploaded 4 hours ago. I was watching that when I went down to get my coffee. It turns out Aiden grew up in China, in the People's Republic, right? Communist China. And he was a white dude in the middle of China, going to a Chinese school, learning all their culture, learning all the ways, just a kid there with his family. And as time went on, he tells this story in his video. They got into smoking pot. They got into their rebellious phase as teenagers, him and his brother. And one night they went to this government building and sprayed on the side of it, fuck the Chinese Communist Party. And so somehow they found out that it was Aiden and his brother. And the next day, like 30 Chinese cops show up at his house and just arrest both of them, him and his brother, and drag them off, like 5 police cars, took them away to this police center, police station, and interrogated them. Like, he was literally interrogated by dozens of cops. And they thought he was a spy, like they thought he was an American spy or something. Just a kid. I don't know, might have been 13, 14 years old. And he's just getting interrogated by groups of police in a foreign country. And he said for him, that was what really drilled down into him that he can't express himself. It's not safe to express yourself. That was like a shocking life experience for him. And so he carried that for years. And he's only recently been working through that trauma and expressing himself, talking up. So, we make so many assumptions like, oh, that guy's just shy, that guy's a loser, or that guy's this or that. We don't realize we're making those judgments on ourselves. Every judgment we make is actually a reflection of how we feel about ourselves. We're pushing out that projection because we don't want to deal with it ourselves. So we push it out externally onto other people. But what I'm realizing as I retard max more, as I give myself the space and the permission to just talk and to be, to get it wrong, to look like an idiot, to look like a retard, to be a bit goofy, to be a bit silly and spontaneous, to shake the tree a bit, to shake up the environment when I go to a new environment, make some jokes, crack some jokes, make some people laugh, make some people smile. You start to see not only your own walls go down, you see other people's walls go down. And it's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing for your own judgment because you're no longer judging people when you connect with them. This is what Christ was like. He hung out with the prostitutes. He hung out with the drunks. He hung out with the tax collectors. He hung out with the sinners, the people with leprosy, the lowest of the low in society. And I believe that this was his way of unifying himself with humanity, going to the lowest of the low and just finding that common human experience, finding that common human spirit that's in all of us, getting past the external, getting past all the judgments and just connecting. This is why we've got to express ourselves. This is why we've got to allow this energy to rise up, to clear out the throat chakra. This is all about expression, the throat. And we block it up over years, trying to say the right thing, trying to appear intelligent, trying to appear different to what we really feel that we are, trying not to be thought of a certain way. So we shut up, we choke it up, we try and be cool, we try and speak a certain lingo so we can fit in. We got to let all of that go. We've got to set the tone for the environment. That happens through the voice. That happens through sound. That happens through cutting through. This is what the voice does. It cuts through. The sword of truth is the word. Use your words. Start using your words. You can't live in this fear of getting it wrong, because you only get good at speaking by practicing. You only get good at expressing yourself by making mistakes. Like that little kid crawling on the ground, then starting to walk, then falling down, splat on the face again and again. This is what we got to do. It's repetitions. Got to do away with this fear of failure, this retarded fear of failure. Open up the channel. Open up the expression. You know, if you're a subpar looking dude, if you look, quite asymmetrical, quite unattractive by conventional standards, you can still get tons of women if you know how to use this, if you know how to use your mouthpiece, just as a little bit of extra incentive in there, If you know how to talk, if you can tell stories, if you can capture the minds of people by telling stories, bro, there's no limit to what you can achieve. This is a meta skill, using the voice. So just start talking. This is my talking juice, coffee, caffeine. Gets you into a mad verbal flow. One of the greatest skills you can develop is improvisational speaking. That was one of the reasons why I first started making videos over 8 years ago. Because I knew I had to develop my voice. You have to develop your voice as a man. You have to develop that spontaneous improvisational speaking, that ability to just flow. This gets accelerated on semen retention. I'm amazed by the amount of guys who just start making videos once they get on their SR journey, because you're literally redirecting that life force upwards and it's going through the throat. And now you're able to express. Whereas you may have never been able to do that before because you're too possessed by the pixels. So brothers, this is what we're cultivating. Just start speaking, just start sharing. If you want some challenge, if you want some accountability, if you want us to get around you and support you on this journey of becoming a more expressive version of yourself, jump in the community. The link is below. Sons of God community. We must have at least a dozen dudes, if not more, who regularly make content in that group. And they're all dropping their videos in there. We're all subscribing to each other, commenting, supporting each other, because this is what it's all about. We all grow together. The whole is greater than the sum of the parts. When we get together in a group, in a mastermind, as Napoleon Hill described in The Laws of Success and Think and Grow Rich, one of his main principles was a mastermind. When you come together with a group of other people with a similar interest, with a similar goal, such as the Sons of God, we've got the goal of essentially bringing heaven to earth as Christ commanded, taking full authority over earth, bringing the authority of heaven to earth through us, as us, embodying the full Christ consciousness, embodying the full Spirit of Christ. That's what we're here to do. So if you want to be a part of that, if you're feeling a stirring in your spirit, jump in the Sons of God. Link is below. We'll see you there. Much love, Kings.